on in there? The radiation...
When it comes to doting remembrance of our childhood, there are many who still hold cartoons in the highest regard. And no matter what decade you are looking at, you've got to admit that the 90s had some of the zaniest cartoons on display. Of course, each of us had our favorite characters, and when we say us here, we'd specifically like to address the 90s children. Well, speaking of these memorable cartoons, some of them featured the craziest of villains who left us viewers with the biggest impact. While we mostly hated them back then, and some literally scared the bejesus out of us, here's taking a trip down memory lane and looking at 30 of the major 90s cartoon villains. Are you excited about this video? We know we are. Let's dive right into it then. But before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but it means the whole world to us. Thank you. Let's begin right away.
Yes! Another stunning Joker entrance leaves the crowd...
Joker Batman, the animated series. I agree that Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski animated superhero television series didn't have a lot of villains, each worthy of a mention. But if we are being honest here, not a single one of them came even close to the terror of the Clown Prince of crime. The Joker's maniacal laughter alone can send a chill up our spines to date. Of course, Star Wars fame Mark Hamill deserves a special attention for bringing the character of the Joker to life and effectively treading the fine line between terrifying and hilarious. Born as the menacingly ruthless, shrewd, and extremely dangerous mob boss, Jack Napier's character is shown to be Batman's arch enemy even before the former accident at the Ace Chemicals manufacturing plant, which is what led to the birth of his alter ego, or in other words, the Joker. So after Jack became a Joker, his sole purpose was to create chaos and, in turn, take over Gotham City. Now, regardless of the state of his seriously twisted mind, the Joker happens to be a brilliant planner, especially one who is never out of plans. He is also seen resorting to various gadgets, such as his signature bladed playing cards, joy buzzers, laughing gas, and let's not dare disregard the Joker's bombs to exact his comedic murders. Magneto, X-Men, the animated series. Eric Lewald, Sidney E. Warner, and Mark Eden's X-Men not only aided kicking off the 90s wave of superhero animated series, but this cartoon also went on to become the most famous iteration of the animated X-Men, featuring villains who were as good as the heroes. And speaking of greatest X-Men villain, that spot is still reserved for the master of magnetism, the complex and equally interesting Magneto. As a revolutionary leader, Magneto believed mutants were the next stage of evolution for humanity, and they were bound to take over the world. But then, this also meant conquering the world, so as to create a utopia for his mutants. It is only fair on our part to categorize Magneto as an on and off extremist kind of villain who's in the series is known explicitly for crimes such as mass destruction, attempted genocide, torture, terrorism, kidnapping, and assault, among others.
Dick, time for me to reel you in.
The Kingpin, Spider-Man, the animated series. There is no denying that the Spider-Man has an extensive roster of adversaries who, may we add, happen to be the iconic part of Marvel Comics' constantly evolving universe. Well, speaking of the Walls Crawler's villain in the 1994 series, Wilson Fisk, who is otherwise known as the manipulative crime lord Kingpin, has led the distinctive pleasure of retaining the position of Spider-Man's longest-running foe in spite of not possessing any superpowers of his own. Fisk, who was born Wilson Moriarty, was deliberately made to take the blame for his abusive father's act of robbery and sent to prison. By the time he got out of prison, he had acquired every skill and knowledge he would require to establish his own empire. So the first thing Wilson did was change his very name to Wilson Fisk and wipe out every trace of his earlier life. This allowed him to pose as a benevolent philanthropist, only to become the reigning kingpin of New York's criminal underworld later, as the mastermind behind the creation of the Spider Slayers, as well as the notorious Insidious Six. Kingpin has many supervillains work for him, such as Dr. Octopus, Shocker, Rhino, Scorpion, Vulture, and Mysterio. He is also accountable for several defining moments that have taken place throughout the entire series. One such moment includes the overarching villain going to the whole extent of disclosing Spider-Man's secret identity with the aid of the Insidious Six. Violator, Spawn, the animated series, as the most reoccurring villain, and let's not forget Spawn's arch enemy as well. Violator, who is better known as the Clown in the 1997 series, happens to be a very sadistic, deranged, and manipulative demon. He is sent by his master Malbaglia to conduct the latter's will and train the newest Hell's Pawns on Earth, which in this case happens to be Al Simmons, aka Spawn. While his true demonic form is found to make one shit in their very pants, Violator, in his human form, appears as a short, obese, bald man with his blue crown paint on his face resembling the letter M and 4 fingers on each hand. Let's be clear on one thing right away. Violator absolutely detests Spawn, and add to this the whole of humanity too, and he thoroughly believes that he should be the rightful leader of Malbagia's army at the end of the day. No wonder his character is constantly seen meddling in the affairs of Spawn, which has led to the duo engaging themselves in the nastiest of fights. Todd McFarlane's supervillain is not any demon to be taken lightly, and the character conclusively tops the list of being the most horrifying villain from the Spawn universe.
You're finished!
Shao Kahn, Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm. Catherine Derek's 1996 animated series, one that was based on the celebrated Mortal Kombat fighting video game series, portrayed Shao Kahn more like an arch nemesis throughout the series. While it's true that this character, voiced by the late Canadian actor John Vernon, made an appearance in just 4 episodes of the series, one cannot deny but admit that Shao Kahn was one accountable for letting other realms invade Earth realm. This hegemonic warlord here is known for his high levels of intelligence, dark magic, immorality, superhuman strength, stamina, and durability. Besides having a pennant for conquering new realms, the Emperor of Outworld loves watching death matches, and Khan has a particular affinity for taunting, torturing, and killing his opponents.
Be gone! You shall be my guest for dinner, and at sunrise...
Dr. Doom, Fantastic Four, the animated series. Dr. Doom not only happens to be one of the greatest supervillains of Marvel, but also one of the first ones to be introduced. The character, which debuted in the 5th issue of the Fantastic Four comics in 1962, continues to serve as the arch-enemy of Mr. Fantastic and the superhero team of the Fantastic Four in general. This brings us to the 1994 animated television series, where both Neil Ross and Simon Templeman voiced him. This series shows how there are villains and how there is the infamous Dr. Doom. Like it or not, Doom did manage to deal the very power comic from Silver Surfer and temporarily used it for his own gains. That is not all. Let's not forget the time when he literally went to the extent of using Hulk as a weapon against the Fantastic Four. Truth to be told, it's still hard to disregard the leader of Latveria's skull-like helmet and his iconic emerald green cowl. Everything about this villainous Dr. Doom is great. His hatred for Reed Richards, his armor, his powers, his army of Doom bots, and that spectacular manner of speaking. There is so much depth to his character, especially in his backstory, and he manages to cast a vast shadow wherever he goes. Don Carnage, Tailspin. Well, who does not remember this panic-provoking pirate here? If you ask us, it's still hard on our part to disregard that flamboyant introduction by Don Carnage. Voiced by Jim Cummings, Carnage is an anthropomorphic red wolf who not only happens to be the leader of the air pirates, but also flies a massive aircraft carrier known as the Iron Vulture. While there is no denying that Carnage is a highly professional pilot, he's also a power-hungry pirate at the end of the day, and that makes him ruthlessly cunning, scheming, and relentless in terms of constantly coming up with plans to plunder and take over the city of Cape Suzette. The sartorial sense of the main antagonist in the series certainly deserves mention. We would like to stress that blue Napoleon-style high-collared captain tailcoat that comes with red cuffs and golden buttons, teamed up with sky blue pants and gray boots. You cannot miss out on Carnage accent, which happens to be a mix of Spanish, Italian, and French. Dark Cat, SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron. Created by Christian and Yvonne Tremblay, the events of this 1993 animated television series takes place in the facetious Megacat City, one that is inhabited by anthropomorphic felines, otherwise known as the Cats. Now, as far as the SWAT Cats are concerned, they're basically two vigilante pilots who are in possession of an ultra-modern fighter jet and a horde of weaponry. This brings us to criminal mastermind Dark Cat, who goes without saying happens to be the main arch villain of the SWAT Cats, eerily bearing a lot of resemblance with Skeletor from He-Man. So you're basically looking at the gigantic purple-skinned cat who is always seen wearing a black and red hooded coat. Dark Cat is a highly clever and scheming. His goal is to demolish Megacat City and create a new city where lawlessness is the law of the land. You can give credit to the level of intelligence which makes him predict the actions of his enemies with nothing but utmost precision. Dark Cat is imposing not just physically but also mentally. His greatest power is his creativity, which allows him to devise inimitable plans. He's also pretty ruthless, sadistic, and determined not to stop at anything until his plans are executed. Dark Cat's principal henchmen are the Creeplings, small, pink, gremlin-like creatures who are not only very loyal to their master, but also quite vicious in nature. It is said that this chapter never really got an origin story in the series. It would have been interesting to know more about him.
Kami, Piccolo, we are one.
Well, unite. Frieza, Dragon Ball Z. Say hello to this iconic antagonist who is not only one of the Empress of Universe 7, but also serves as the arch-enemy to Goku and Vegeta. Frieza is feared all across the cosmos and aims to attain immortality with full access to power. This sadistic warlord is known for a plethora of crimes, which include mass genocide, murder and destruction, conspiracy, enslavement, attempted universal domination, abuse of power, torture, mutilation, corruption, extortion, embezzlement, and the list continues to go on. So we're basically talking about someone who would rather not die no matter how many never-ending violent showdowns he has had with Goku. Also, despite being in 2023, Frieza's bright purple lipstick and that terribly high-pitched voice still seems to be etched into our memories.
To our better half, we call ourselves Venom.
Venom SpiderMan, the animated series. Technically speaking, Venom is pretty much what our friendly neighborhood web slinger would have been the latter been in some twisted, evil alternate universe. Initially, a reporter at the Daily Bugle, Eddie Brock, had his job as well as reputation fall to pieces because of some blighted encounters with Spider-Man. And let's not forget about his own bad choices here, with Brock becoming Venom thanks to a particular church mishap that led to him bonding with an alien symbiote. He is granted formidable powers that are similar to those of Spider-Man, along with fearsome appearance featuring the most maniac grin possible. Venom's turbulent relationship with Spider-Man, the duo's contrasting ideologies, and Venom solidifying his status as one of the wall crawler's most iconic adversaries make him a fan favorite character at the end of the day. Blight, Batman Beyond. Derek Powers was a powerful and corrupt CEO of Powers Technology who, after a freak accident, or should we say, after getting exposed to a lethal mutagenic nerve gas, that he himself had developed got mutated into the monstrous mega-human Blight. Well, as the name suggests, Blight is more like a living nuclear hazard. You cannot be near Blight if you do not have some form of protection on you, because Blight is capable or even passively releasing hazardous amounts of radiation that can prove fatal. Imagine someone who has the power to manipulate radiation into blasts of energy that are capable of causing severe burns and dizziness. Mind you, extreme amounts of exposure to Blight's radiation can also cause one to have radiation poisoning. Blight literally epitomizes the phrase, "Everything I touch shall wither and die." And true to his words, everything that he comes in contact with gets burned. This makes him immune to all kinds of melee attacks, given that radioactive heat has the power to melt a high-technology batsuit too. Well, for someone known to cause large radioactive explosions around himself, he surely cannot be taken lightly in any manner. Skullmaster, Mighty Max. Meet the main antagonist of the Mighty Max TV series, who happens to be a nothing short of a wicked, wrathful, abrasive, emotionless, and megalomaniacal warlock. Therefore, it is only fair on the part of the Skullmaster to have desires to plunge the world into darkness. Besides being the arch-enemy of the Mighty One, Skullmaster also happens to be an ancient warrior sorcerer whose boundless ambition and lust for power have led him to destroy 2 whole civilizations. Skullmaster's signature weapon is his sword. May we add, is highly skilled in swordsmanship. The character is voiced by Tim Curry in the series. Nega Duck, Darkwing Duck. What if the superheroic Darkwing Duck was evil and belonged in the nightmarish parallel reality of the Negaverse? Well, that would be Nega Duck, and it is only fitting to address him as the arch nemesis of Darkwing Duck. It is also Nega Duck's yellow, red, and black-hued costume that makes him different from Darkwing. Nega Duck has no special powers, and it's seen chiefly as being dependent on his physical prowess, levels of intellect, intimidation, and let's not dare disregard gadgets. Also, Brownie points to him for possessing the ability to disguise himself as Darkwing and make the latter look like a criminal instead. Mind you, Nega Duck is quite cold-blooded, and he will not think twice before hurting people to lay his hands on great wealth and supremacy. Last but not least, Nega Duck also happens to be the very leader of the Fearsome Five, a group consisting of Quacker Jack, the Liquidator, Bushroot, and Megavolt. Him, the Powder Puff Girls. Okay, so help us a little out there, because we're still not sure if him from the Powder Puff Girls was actually a reddish-orange devil come lobster wearing black stiletto heel boots, or the character just happened to be a cross-dressing, effeminate satanic being. Well, however he was certainly the alpha villain possessing reality-warping powers, the ability to shapeshift, mind control, teleport, resurrect, control the weather, have laser eyes, and let's not dismiss him for having the power to spit acid, literally. Believe us when we say that the eerily lifting voice of him is still capable of sending chills straight through the very bones of every 90s child. He was also way too civil and polite for a villain, but then again, him wasn't your regular villain anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm act of our welcome for Sorcerer
Jafar, Aladdin. As we know, Jafar is the main villain from one of the most popular franchises, Aladdin, the animated series. He's a psychopath and an immoral wizard of the highest order. Jafar won't think twice before destroying absolutely anyone who's an obstacle to his plans. As a 90s kid, I can tell you this dude was a really scary villain. Jafar had those courage as the cowardly dog vibes. He was roughly based on another bizarre villain, Vizier, from the traditional tales of 1001 Nights collection of stories. Jafar comes second in the ranking of power, just after the Sultan. His disciple parrot, Lagos, always accompanies him wherever he travels. Jafar also has an underlying hunger for power and has no ethical limits. He uses his sorcery and immense knowledge of alchemy to achieve his goals. Jafar is an absolute master of disguise. Sometimes even Lagos cannot recognize him. After his final wish wish is fulfilled, he becomes an all-powerful genie who is now capable of ruling not just the world, but the entire cosmos. Even after soaring to heights every supervillain dreams of, he is bound by the oath of a genie.
Now that I set you free, what is the first thing you are going to...
Hades, Hercules. Hades is a fast-talking chatterbox god of the underworld. He is known for his serious anger management issues and hate towards his brother, Zeus. Hades was appointed the god of the underworld, even though he didn't want to be, as he found it dark and depressing down there. This is where the plan to take Zeus down and rule Mount Olympus as the god of gods struck him. Looking at his considerably weak status, it would take an eternity for him to defeat his brother. The good part is that he has that kind of time because he's immortal and cannot die. Hades' power stems from fire and smoke so much as his hair is made of flames. He is a master manipulator of fire and smoke. Hades is also known to control and change terrain while he's chasing Hercules and Prometheus. Being a god, he's also capable of some heavy-duty telekinesis. Hades is known to throw heavy objects at Hercules using only his mind, but his most powerful weapon is a best-kept secret. Hades seems to experiment with alchemy. He keeps a potion in the underworld that can transform gods into mortals.
It was your charge and you allowed him to escape.
Bluff, the Pirates of Dark Water. This dude is a furious alien pirate. He sails the deep seas, hunting every land he can in search of 13 treasures of rule. He did everything he could to get his hands on the treasure, including abducting Primus, the king of Octopan. Maelstrom, Bluff's monster warship. Bluff is known for his ruthlessness, and he will stop at nothing. In fact, after Primus escaped and gave his son Ren the hidden knowledge and the responsibility to protect the treasure, Bluff went after Ren with vengeance on his head. He easily gets angry and has been seen tossing his own crew members into a pit containing a deadly creature called the Constrictus, which he keeps in a large storage area of his ship. He desires to rule the Dark Sea and the entire planet for his own profit. Bluff's goals are somewhat similar to those of a politician, and the treasures of rule will give him immense power to complete all his sinister wishes. Bluff has faced endless challenges and gained many skills in his quest for treasure. He can hold his breath for a very long time. His brute strength is similar to that of an ox, thanks to the Dark Dweller.
I, Mojo Jojo, have knocked you out. I have put you...
Mojo Jojo, the Powerpuff Girls. Who could ever forget this one? This genius monkey is one of the main villains in the Powerpuff Girls show. He has a really big bone to pick with the Powerpuff Girls. Mojo Jojo's origin is quite a story in itself. He was originally Jojo, the professor's clumsy and hyperactive lab assistant. During the creation of the Powerpuff Girls, Jojo accidentally breaks a bottle of Chemical X, resulting in an explosion. Now, this wasn't an ordinary mix of chemical cocktails. It is the most effective mutagenic substance that can give anyone superhuman abilities. Jojo's DNA was infused with the Chemical X, giving him great skin and a genius-level intellect. Mojo Jojo uses his big brain to develop high-tech weapons to defeat the Powerpuff Girls and take over the world. He is also known to be a super manipulative and has used the Powerpuff Girls' innocence to discuss their weaknesses. Although he isn't as strong as the girls, he is still a pretty strong and a skilled fighter. Mojo was once seen whooping the entire Gangrene gang all by himself. In several episodes, Mojo also defeats the girls with some help from the other villains, of course. He is by far the most popular Powerpuff Girls villain with an episode count of 53.
Please, sir, call me Mandar.
Mandar, Dexter's laboratory. He is a brainiac, just like Dexter. However, Mandar is Dexter's greatest sworn enemy. He leaves no room for escape while he's humiliating Dexter in his scientific community. Upon his birth, Mandar was struck by lightning, and this is where his mind was tainted with corruption and sinister nature. Mandar's competitive rivalry with Dexter is so extreme that he makes some really evil plans just to score higher grades. Boy, that is what I call a villain. villain. Mandar is similar to Dexter in almost all aspects. From huge labs to fighting robots, he's got it all. In fact, the only area where Mandar is sometimes left behind is smartness, which is easy to manipulate. He has a massive crush on Dexter's sister, Dee Dee, which Dexter uses quite often to manipulate him for his advantage. Mandar isn't just a school bully or someone who hates Dexter. He is an evil villain in every sense. Mandar's darkest desires are destroying Dexter's lab and world domination. In the final episode, Mandar has lost his body and the battle with Dexter. The young hero chooses not to terminate Mandar, but rather keep his brain alive in a jar. Mandar's brain remains in prison for all his crimes against humanity. Vernous Scum, Captain Planet, and the Plantiers. Remember the Plantiers and their power rings? I bet you do. My favorite was Wheeler and his fire ring. This show had some crazy battles, and not to forget those environmental lessons for real life. Venomous Scum is one badass ego villain from this show. He's a massive humanoid mutant rat who was born and spent all of his life in the sewer. Scum has highlighted issues, environmentally hazardous issues like neglected sanitation, drug abuse, and disease. It was later found that there is an entire race of such mutated creatures led by Scum. However, did you know Scum can also manipulate and control regular rats? All he wants is to make humans fall on their knees and rule Earth with his army of mutant rats. Scum is the most dangerous eco-villain of them all because he attacks humans directly rather than the environment, unlike the others. The most apt example is the time when he cooked up a drug named Bliss. This super addictive drug was the reason for Boris's death. Scum is the first villain to cause a personal loss for one of the Plantiers. He's also the only eco-villain who angered Captain Planet to the extent of making him lose his sense of humor for a serious justice response. Dr. Luther Paradigm, Street Sharks. It is widely said that too much knowledge becomes a curse. Luther is a genius scientist known for his groundbreaking work in the field of genetics. He wants to use the know-how of genetic engineering for sinister purposes. Luther is hellbent on spreading a mutated gene among all humans and transforming them into his loyal servants. He is the father of evil genetic mutations in the show. Luther is responsible for creating some really badass sidekicks. One of them is Slash, a swordfish with the DNA of ancient warriors like Genghis Khan and the Colonel Thomas Blood. Another one of his early experiments is Lobster, a lobster with a similar DNA cocktail as Slash. As a genetic modification genius, he has many malevolent feathers in his hat. However, not all his experiments went as planned. During an experiment, when he was trying to modify Ben's DNA using a piranhas due to the accident, he was caught in the crossfire in his biowarfare. Dr. Luther Paradigm was temporarily transformed into Dr. Paranoid, complete with a set of razor-sharp teeth and webbed feet. Although he turns back to his regular human form when calm, it gets a little unstable when rage takes over him. Queen Beryl, Sailor Moon, 1992. Sailor Moon, the manga-based TV show, was one of a kind. The show's main villain was the hot and evil Queen Beryl. She was the ruler of the Dark Kingdom, an alteration and dark dimension. However, Queen Beryl was a loyal servant of an even darker entity known as Queen Metalia. As a 90s kid, the most interesting thing about Queen Beryl is her looks. She is tall and beautiful character. Beryl's got fiery red hair with an orange glowing eyes. Upon merging with Metalia, Beryl undergoes a crazy transformation, taking on a larger and more threatening version of her usual self. In this new look, she stands atop a massive plum flower, now having green skin and red eyes. Her attire includes a low-cut red dress with spiked shoulders and a gem on her forehead. In the first part of the show, Meryl focuses on collecting power for Queen Metalia. She commanded Jadeite to forcefully take the energy, but the Sailor Scouts ruined his plans. In the 10th episode, Jadeite fought and lost, leading to Beryl sending him to sleep forever. Nemphite then took over, also facing a continuous failure. From episode 18, Beryl solved the Emporium Silver Crystal. After Nemphite's demise, Zoisite was tasked with finding the crystal. Megabyte, reboot, 1994-2001. I must say, this show was ahead of its time. I mean, a city inside a computer? Now that is what I call creativity. In the show, we see Megabyte, a computer virus who is self-centered and always hungry for power. Megabyte isn't like most villains. He is refined and classy. He always strives to do impressive acts, even while trying to infiltrate the supercomputer. Yet he is brutal and completely enjoys it when others suffer. Megabyte is cruel to the extent that he badly punishes his own minions for their failure. This baddie is capable of infecting anyone as he can access their PID, personal ID. However, he doesn't have the ability to infect the higher authorities or the leaders of the city. This virus villain has some bizarrely amazing feats. He can take off his legs while riding the hover throne. He has retractable claws on his arms. Additionally, Megabyte has a high-tech control panel on his left arm that stores crucial codes for the self-destruction program. In case things go south, he is almost impossible to kill as he holds the ability to regenerate himself in cyberspace when destroyed.
Here's your pudding, Angelica.
Oh, that's okay, Uncle Stu. I'm not hungry anymore.
Angelica Pickles, Rugrats. The daughter of Drew and Charlotte, Angelica is a bossy, spoiled kid. She is the main villain, as well as the supporting characters in the show sometimes. Angelica strongly believes in my way or the highway. Angelica can go to any lengths to get what she wants. She is a big bad bully of her family, always bullying her little cousins, Dill and Tommy. Angelica is a time of trickster and totally deceptive when it comes handling his young cousins. Her bad behavior is a result of her parents never being around and never punishing or trying to discipline her. As a 90s kid, I have to agree, a little ass whooping from time to time is necessary sometimes. Her careless attitude and arrogance stem from her parents' vast wealth, which she often spends on an unhealthy amount of candy, useless toys, and expensive birthday parties. Angelica is spoilt majorly due to bizarre stunts by her mother. At her 13th birthday party, Angelica's mother hired an artist to sculpt her daughter from an iceberg that drowned the RMS Titanic. Another example of such madness is when Angelica's mother, Charlotte, wants to get Angelica's face on Mount Rushmore. Cruella Deville, 101 Dalmatians. One of the most adorable movies from the 90s era, without a doubt, is the 101 Dalmatians. If I had to sum up the entire franchise in one word, it would be awe. Along with the cutie patootie puppies, we have an unusual, fashion-crazy heiress, Cruella. She might look like an old socialite, but deep down inside, she has some nasty desires burning. Cruella can cross all boundaries to get what she wants. Her knack for making a fashion statement has led to her desire for a spotted fur coat that's made out of the skin of a Dalmatian puppies. Yeah, you heard that right. I guess she deserves a lot of spot on the top villain list. Cruella's evil desires for fur have led to a murderous madness. I mean, I'd do anything for those Jordan ones, but mostly definitely not killing puppies for them. That is what makes Cruella a top-tier villain on the list. Unlike other villains, Cruella isn't someone with a world domination plan and powers. She lets her impulsive thoughts win, and as a result can be seen extremely reckless. Her nature is pretty obvious if you closely notice her name, which is a way of words, Cruella Deville, instead of cruel and evil.
Fine. We'll just start by drawing some blood. Well, isn't that?
Mr. Burns, The Simpsons, Charles Montgomery Plantagenet, Chicla Gruber Burns, also known as Mr. Burns, is the wealthy, the evil owner of the nuclear power plant in Springfield. Burns is the oldest and the wealthiest citizen in the Simpsons franchise. What gives him a spot on this list is his never-ending greed for money. Burns is said to have over $1.8 billion net worth, and he's still planning and plotting to make more by exploiting the citizens of Springfield. Mr. Burns is known as a sadistic, selfish, and life-hating eco-terrorist with an immense passion for self-gain. He also has an addiction to creating destructive plots and loves dehumanizing new employees. His constant physical discomfort makes him even more grumpy, further adding to his evil character. Despite his insane amount of wealth, Mr. Burns lacks classiness and displays stereotypes about corporate America. He prioritizes personal wealth and powers over citizens' well-being and safety. His evil nature nature becomes apparent when you look at his middle name. If you look closely, one of his middle names is Gruber, which happens to be the maiden name of Adolf Hitler's paternal grandmother.
I have your hero! Now we'll see how well you'll fight!
Cloney, the Scourge, Redwall. Cloney is the leader of the Bleach Sea Rats horde. His origins were still a mystery to us. However, it is believed that he was once part of the seafaring and belonged to far and lost jungles of the unknown. Cloney has lost one eye in a battle with a pike, and he covered the empty socket with an eye patch, making him look like the Jack Sparrow of rats. He sported a cloak designed from bat wings tied at his throat with the skull of a mole. That is one hell of a rat villain. Cloney is known to be unusually fast and agile. He is way too intelligent for a villain, which is evident in his strategic skills. Cloney's origins may be unknown, but he started his destructive journey in the far north. Upon finding a mine owned by badgers and others, he tried to take control of it for his army but failed. Returning later, he weakened the structure and then collapsed the mine, killing everyone inside. As Cloney moved south, his horde burned a farmhouse, killed piglets, spread disease among livestock, and destroyed a village with a cow stampede. Cloney can easily write a book on how to become the most terrifying villain ever. Ursula, the Little Mermaid. Every 90s kid surely remembers the Little Mermaid franchise. We all definitely hate Ursula, but have you ever imagined that if it wasn't for Ursula, Ariel's adventures wouldn't have been so captivating? Ursula is an evil sea wizard who makes deals, merfolk, to make all her wishes come to life. However, all her deals are silently structured in a way that will benefit her, even if it means causing mayhem in the lives of others. Prior to becoming the evil witch that she is, Ursula was an honorable member of Triton's kingdom. Due to her sinister nature, she was thrown out and banished for life. This triggered the true evil inside her, and she vowed to take revenge by stealing the king's trident and ruling the seas. Even in her life before being exiled, Ursula was power-hungry and devilish in nature. Even without trident, she is very powerful due to her magical abilities. This villainous witch can not only shape-shift her own body, but she can transform others too. It was proven in an episode when she transformed Ariel into a human. Apart from magical abilities, she also has superhuman strength. Although not as strong as King Triton, she is still significantly strong. Snowball, Pinky, and the Brain. This show was another creative masterpiece portraying the lives of lab rodents. Snowball is a bioengineer hamster and the arch nemesis of Pinky and the Brain. Did you know this guy was once Brain's beastie when they were young? However, he was reverted to his original hamster form because he was de-spliced. This happened in the episode titled Brainwashed, and Snowball was never seen again. He was one of the very few characters to be completely taken off the air. As long as he was on the show, he made sure to everything to give his opponents a hard time. Snowball was evil, short-tempered, and extremely manipulative. Due to being an experimental rodent, much like the Brain, he is super intelligent. However, he had zero intentions of doing good, unlike the Brain. Marvelous verdict. These 90 villains were one of a kind. Not only did they play a crucial role in shaping the stories, but they also made sure we were glued to our screens. They surely made the heroes' lives challenging, but along with it, they also made sure to leave a deep mark on the pop culture by making their show a success. Even decades later, these 90 villains and their stories ignite some really fond memories for those who grew up binging these animated shows. These 90s cartoon villains were more than just entertainment. They showed a mirror to the social and cultural issues of the time, offering our young minds a way to see and understand the world. Hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. Stay tuned for the next one. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us. If you haven't already, have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.